Good evening and welcome to TVB News. With Hong Kong's cruise industry reopening after the pandemic, some tourists using the Kai Tak cruise terminal found themselves facing difficulties when trying to take public transport. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung said the poor transport arrangements at the cruise terminal last week could have created a negative impact on Hong Kong's image and its tourism services. Yeung said improvements will be made for the arrivals next week. Mimo Sangai reports.
The huge cruise ship Spectrum of the Seas visited Hong Kong last Saturday, carrying around 5,000 tourists. While this suggests the city's tourism has gradually returned to normalcy, the poor transport arrangements at Kai Tak Cruise Terminal reflected inadequacies in preparations, as many tourists experienced a long waiting time for transport after disembarking from the ship. After complaints from cruise passengers, authorities offered free shuttle buses to tourist attractions, including West Kowloon Cultural District. Meanwhile, taxi drivers were given a voucher of $50 to fill up their gas tanks when they pick up cruise passengers from the terminal. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung admitted the initial poor arrangement had made a negative impact on the SAR, but Yeung believes the situation has improved.
The new measures or additional measures we put in work quite well, and you can see that the tourists are getting on the public transports or taxis very easily.
The Spectrum of the Seas will visit the city next week.
We will continue to monitor, and especially we have a relatively big cruise ship coming in next Saturday. That's, of course, another test for our measures.
Yeung added he had suggested the cruise company to organize passengers to leave the vessel in batches. Stary Lee from the TVB party said the government should improve the transport system for Kai Tak, while the Transport Secretary Lam Sai Hong said authorities are working on different plans. Mimo Sangai, TVB News.
A fire broke out in a building on Yu Chau Street in Sham Shui Po, killing one man. 5 people were sent to the hospital after inhaling smoke, and 2 of them remain in critical condition tonight.
The fire broke out in a building on Yu Chau Street. Rescuers were taken up via a ladder on a fire engine and sprayed water at a unit. Some residents waited to be rescued in their homes. Many shut their windows and covered their noses with towels to avoid the heavy smoke. Firefighters also asked tenants about their condition and helped them to evacuate the site. Some residents required oxygen masks when being rushed to the hospital, while others were treated on site. Police and the Fire Services Department received a report at around 9 a.m. on Saturday after smoke billowed from a unit on level 4 of the building. Rescuers also deployed 1 jet and a breathing apparatus team in the operation. A man was found dead inside the unit. It's believed he burned charcoal and caused the fire. An ethnic minority man was unconscious at one point. He, together with a Chinese woman who is his wife, as well as 3 other people, were sent to the hospital. Sham Shui Po District Councillor Nicole Lau said this building is old and there are elderly tenants as well as those who reside in subdivided flats. Lau said she'll look into whether the building has ever received a fire safety direction issued under the Fire Safety Ordinance. Following the incident, police cordoned off parts of Yu Chau Street. Some bus routes stopped running. The fire was put out at around 9:30 a.m.
Secretary for Innovation and Technology Sun Dong said the government are considering offering subsidies to key tech enterprises to attract them to the city. Speaking on a radio program, Sun said China and Singapore have enticed major businesses with cash. Sun said while Hong Kong has not had such a subsidy culture for a long time, authorities are considering to do so. The sale of a new residential project in Yau Tong drew thousands of prospective buyers for about 600 units, resulting in long queues that have not been seen for some time. An academic on real estate said investors in property should consider the interest rate situation.
Now Hong Kong interest rate will be higher than inflation, and this will last for quite a while. So this is what we call real interest rate. So people are paying for real interest rate right now. So the opportunity cost of paying the mortgage for a property is higher than before. And because the real interest rate, all the asset prices will go down, including housing prices. So it may not be a good idea to invest in property right now.
In the project sales office in Hong Kong today, buyers filled the entire lobby with the queue stretching all the way to the bridge outside of a shopping mall. Some 626 units were up for grabs today, and there were over 38,000 registrations. Buyers were all eyeing the property Coastline 2 in Yau Tong, which offers flats with sizes ranging from 270 to 723 square feet at a price between $2.9 million and $11 million. Completion is expected in 2025. The Development Bureau said it has identified some 1,100 buildings that require immediate inspection and repair works. Among them, about 400 are subject to the Buildings Department's intervention. 600 are already undergoing repair works. This comes after concrete fell off buildings in numerous occasions. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin said today inspection normally takes half a year and maintenance would be around 7 months. She also admits prosecution efforts may have to be stepped up in future. 10 people have been released on bail on suspicion of conspiracy to collude with a foreign country or with external elements to endanger national security and inciting riots. They were detained on Thursday, among them Bobo Yip, the former employee of the Secretariat of the 612 Humanitarian Relief Fund. She was seen leaving Ma On Shan Police Station early Saturday, while some are former members of the fund. Others belong to an organization of Chinese medicine practitioners that provided medical treatments to protesters during the 2019 protests. The 10 must report to police in mid-September. Foreign Minister Wang Yi urged the Philippines to work with China to seek an effective way to defuse tensions in the South China Sea. Wang said the U.S. and some other forces are making waves, fearing the South China Sea will no longer be chaotic. The comments were made by Wang during visits to Singapore and Malaysia. Tracy Furness has more.
In the second leg of his visit to 3 Southeast Asian countries, Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for talks in Malaysia's northwest island state of Penang on Friday. After the meeting, Anwar said that he and Wang had discussions on enhancing bilateral ties and cooperation in various fields, including trade and education. Wang also met his Malaysian counterpart, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Zambri Abdul Qadir. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the China-Malaysia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, and next year will mark the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Earlier on Friday, Wang met with Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, with both sides pledging to advance bilateral cooperation. Wang said China's joint efforts with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to develop peaceful growth will be a stabilizing factor, which will bring lasting benefits and opportunities to all countries, especially neighboring countries. In addition, Wang said the United States and some other forces are constantly making waves and fear the South China Sea will no longer be chaotic. Wang noted they have used the Ren Ai Jiao issue recently to fan the flames between China and the Philippines, jeopardizing peace in the South China Sea in a bid to serve their own geopolitical strategy. Wang said he hopes regional countries will be vigilant against the masterminds behind the scenes and play a role in maintaining peace and stability in the South China Sea. Wang is visiting Cambodia Saturday on the last leg of his trip. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
On the mainland, mudslides and flooding in the northwestern city of Xi'an killed 2 people with 16 others missing. 2 houses in a village in Xi'an were washed away, while roads, bridges and power supply were also damaged during heavy rains. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Kanun made landfall Friday evening in the northeast region of China. The 6th typhoon of this year brought torrential rain, disrupting train service Saturday and Sunday. Heavy rains affecting 7 cities in Jilin province, including the capital Changchun. The central and southern parts of the province are expecting 40 millimeters of rain per hour. In Sri Lanka, hundreds of people took part in protests in Colombo, urging the government to step down and calling for reforms. The gathering marked the first anniversary of anti-government protests that forced then-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the country. Rajapaksa resigned from office last summer following unrest over his government's handling of the worst economic crisis in 7 decades. Friday's protest was led by opposition MP and former Army Chief Sarath Fonseca. In a show of restraint, riot police did not use water cannons and tear gas to disperse protesters. Welcome back to TVB News. British media are reporting that a fire broke out at Moscow warehouse around 6 kilometers from the official residence of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The fire has spread to over 21,000 square feet. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed regional military leaders in another corruption-related clear-out. Nazvi Karim has more.
When US President Joe Biden was recently asked about Ukraine's impending NATO membership, he said corruption at leadership levels remained an issue. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, desperate for his country to become part of the Western military alliance, is now addressing those doubts. On Friday, Zelensky announced the dismissal of the heads of all the country's regional military recruitment centers amid corruption suspicions. Zelensky said a probe revealed signs of professional abuse ranging from illegal enrichment to transporting draft-eligible men across the border, despite a wartime ban. It is not the first time Zelensky has had a graft-related sweep of government and military leaders. Ukraine has faced recruitment challenges as the war with Russia nears the 18-month mark, and the military is occasionally hit by scandals revealing graft or heavy-handed recruitment tactics. On the battlefront, 1 person was reportedly killed and more than a dozen wounded after a rocket attack on what Ukraine says is a hotel in the southeastern region of Zaporizhia. Russia's defense ministry said the location housed foreign mercenaries. Local media reported the damaged building was a Raikart's hotel in the Zaporizhia city center on the bank of the Dnipro River. Russia, meanwhile, said its forces repelled Ukrainian attacks in multiple directions and also made advances towards Kupiansk. It said up to 30 Ukrainian servicemen, 2 pickup trucks, a D-30 howitzer and a US-made counter-battery radar were attacked in the Kherson region overnight. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
The death toll from the Hawaii wildfires has risen to 80 and is expected to grow. Searches of burnt-out buildings are continuing in Lahaina. Residents who escaped are being allowed back. They are returning to a scene of devastation. David Garrett has more.
Most of the images of the fire aftermath have been from the air, but now with access allowed, a glimpse of the disaster at ground level. The return to Lahaina is distressing. The town has been virtually obliterated. Houses reduced to rubble. Other buildings are still smouldering after being scorched by the blaze. There is thick ash everywhere. These cars were left behind as people fled. These vehicles were discarded by the shore as people jumped into the ocean to escape. The Coast Guard rescued at least 17 people from the sea. These cars and buses are bringing people back to Lahaina. The need to see what remains caused long delays. Tourists who'd been in hotels were allowed to retrieve belongings, but were warned there might not be anything left. Local Sydney Carney returned to ruins. She found almost nothing left. Sydney struggled to process it.
This is my house. This is the ash, the remains of my house, but yeah, the fire knocked out the whole neighborhood. It's sad. I feel like no one's really accepted it yet, but seeing it is a lot more real than seeing all the pictures. I walked through my room and there's just nothing. Like, everything is gone.
Hundreds of people are staying in makeshift shelters. This one is at a gymnasium. Water, food and clothes have been donated from across the region. Lahaina is uninhabitable. These people, effectively refugees, are in Wailaku, another part of Maui. The Red Cross are assisting with volunteers.
It's amazing. The whole island's coming together. I got people on the mainland like donating and sending money and stuff and doing whatever they can. So if we keep this up, it should be the best we can make it. Could be worse.
Other stories are emerging of people continuing with their lives amid awful circumstances. Pittsburgh couple Cindy and Bob Curler were married just a short distance from the worst of the fires. They had dinner in sunshine, but the sky started to turn black.
I don't know if they were trying to keep it from us, so we enjoyed our dinner. But as soon as we got to our driver, he was like, "Okay, so here's the deal."
They learned of the fires and had to leave. The couple had nowhere to sleep and ended up spending their wedding night in the backseat of the limousine and the couch at the car rental company.
Like, yes, it was our wedding day and night, but like that's only one night for us where these people are impacted for the rest of their lives.
Residents return to what remains of their town, which will never be the same again. David Garrett, TVB News.
The planned MMA fight between Tesla and ex-owner Elon Musk and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg moved a step closer to reality, with Italy's culture minister talking to Musk about organizing an ancient Rome-themed charitable event. At one point, Musk said Rome's ancient Colosseum would host the fight, but Italy's cultural minister Gennaro Sagiuliano said in a statement that he had spoken to Musk and a date had not been set. In addition, it's unlikely the event would take place in Rome. Sagiuliano said Friday that any event would have to respect Italy's heritage sites. The two billionaires have been talking about a cage fight since June and is expected to raise millions of euros for two of Italy's pediatric hospitals to combat childhood diseases. Today is World Elephant Day, an annual event that first started in 2012. In South Africa, elephants enjoy the day at a sanctuary relaxed near a watering hole. The event aims to shine a light on preserving and protecting elephants around the world. In Bela Bela, a herd of elephants grazed on grass and wandered around as people looked on. World Elephant Day takes place annually on August the 12th. That's the news. Thanks for watching.